One of the movies that opened this weekend was Minions and Monsters. And, this was one of the films that I kind of predicted would be in the hunt for the $1 billion club because it's a Minions movie, right? Despicable Me films have, I don't know, 2, 3 of them that have joined the $1 billion club. These are big box office films. And the early word of mouth on Minions and Monsters, both from critics and early audiences who saw it, were that it's quite good. That it's really quite, nobody said it's the best of the franchise, but that it was quite good. So it opens up this weekend, and sure enough, it opens in the number 1 spot. But that's not saying much because the number 1 spot is the lowest opening by far of any Despicable Me / Minions universe movie ever, making, I think, around $38 million at the box office. It made a $61 million 5-day opening, but in its proper 3-day opening, which is what you measure it by, it ended up being like 30 something million dollars. Let's go over and take a look at this chart here. When you look at the Minions stuff, like they had 2 of them open over $100 million. Despicable Me, the original, opened at 56, and Minions and Monsters made like 40% of that, made less than a third of what the biggest opening was. And again, here's the key thing. This isn't a Supergirl situation where the critics hated it and it got lousy advanced, word of mouth and stuff like that. Word of mouth and early reviews for Despicable Me's Minions and Monsters were pretty solid. And yet, $36.4 million. I think, what was the last one that was Minions: The Rise of Gru? Was that the last one that came out? I think that was 2022.
In Minions, yeah.
Yeah, that opened to $107 million. 107.
Domestic, wow.
Yeah. This is like a third of that. And so, guys, I got to tell you, like, considering the franchise, considering how big these movies have all been, considering that it's got pretty decent word of mouth, like from decent to quite good, I am honestly at a loss for why this thing has opened so low. Like, there's an argument to be made about, Toy Story, which is approaching $800 million, by the way, in just its 3rd weekend. Toy Story's out there only in its 3rd weekend. There might be a lot of family audiences that are wanting to take their kids to go see the movies that rather would go back to see Toy Story again. Maybe they should have opened Minions and Monsters a little bit further away from Toy Story. Or is it the thing of, listen, this is an older franchise now. The reality is Despicable Me's been around for a minute. And maybe people are just over that. Maybe they're just over the gimmick. Maybe people are just over the gimmick. I don't know. But again, for me, this would be a much simpler thing to wrap my head around and discuss if it was a bad movie. But generally speaking, the reviews have been quite good. Anyway, Rob, this thing, it opens at number 1. Great. But it opened at number 1 at $36.4 million. Where the last film in its franchise, I think, opened to like 100 million plus. And they've opened as high as 115 million. Several of the films are $1 billion films. Why do you think Minions and Monsters had such a limp opening weekend? What do you think?
It's hard to say, but I would imagine it's just the whole idea, the premise behind it is not fun. It was not uniquely, like, Minions and Monsters should be a no-brainer. And then the old Hollywood setting for us was really appealing. But aren't Minions kind of their own monsters? I mean, call me crazy, but you Minions and Monsters sound like 2 things that have been put together in a way. It sounds a little cheap. In a way, the Rise of Gru is like, oh, I get that. You've got something from the Minions universe that is coming into play. But with this, I mean, it's a strange thing. I'll tell you, at the theater yesterday, I heard a friend of one of the people who came to see Citizen Kane said to me, I'm going to see another movie. I'm going to see Toy Story 5 again. And I was like, when you want to see something even if you've already seen Toy Story 5, it's so appealing and it was so much fun to watch that I think people would be hard pressed, even if just to see something. People who go see animated films usually watch them over and over and over and over again. And maybe Minions, it just didn't have enough of that hook to bring people into the theater. It's like, well, what's going to happen? I don't know. Probably the same thing that we've already seen a million times. With Toy Story, you're going to get a new, fresh take somehow. I don't know. When you have both of these competing huge franchises, unless Minions and Monsters is promising something that's really interesting, maybe it just couldn't muster the interest. It's really odd.
I don't know that any of the other Minions have necessarily offered anything really fresh and unique, and
but
yet
people
people
weren't tired
came
of them
out
yet
droves.
either.
Yeah, so I'm like, maybe the novelty's wearing out. I don't know, Chris.
Minions fatigue?
Maybe. I mean, like, Chris, I don't know about you, but like when we started off the year, I looked out over the films coming out in the next 12 months, and we were trying to pick out which films had the potential to be billion-dollar films. And Minions and Monsters was one of the ones that I had on my list because, one, it looked good, and two, the history. Like, the track record is there. $30-something million is not great. What do you attribute this opening to?
Man, well, I've just always been fascinated with the success of the Minions. I try my best to get into when I watch them, and I'm just like, I have been in the room with children who watch it, and they are hypnotized by the Minions. It is such an interesting thing to see, like, how it locks them in. So here in particular, where it seemed like a huge kind of big drop off, looking at those numbers as you had them, 36. Comparatively to the last time, I actually tend to kind of agree a little with Rob, as much as, because you just think, oh, it's a Minions movie, you're gonna watch it, but you're right, I don't think there was a hook this time around. And as weird as it might be, there was like a little fluff about, like, well, this is a new group of Minions, this isn't your Kevin, your Bob. And
right,
I don't know, when you have $1 billion franchise, I actually do think there was some attachment, whether you like it or not, into these characters. And if you tell them this isn't even the group you're following, the Minions and Monster hook isn't even that appealing, maybe there is just a lack of, like, what doesn't feel like it's my Minions anymore. It's the Minions for the new generation. And I don't know if they're liking Minions now.
I couldn't name a single Minion other than
Right?
Kevin. I think I can name Kevin,
Right.
and I think that's about it. But it's too bad because they showed us that big presentation at CinemaCon, and it looked delightful. I mean, so I don't know. For me, I'm going to write it. I think it's probably Death by a Thousand Cuts. Maybe it's partly Minion fatigue. Maybe it's something else. I'm going to mostly chalk it up to the Toy Story phenom right now. But I mean, I never would have guessed. a $30-something million opening for it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Minions and Monsters, sure, it opens at number one, but it opens to $30-something million, by far the lowest opening weekend for anything in the Despicable Me universe, despite the fact that it looks pretty good. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.